Today, I want to give you 5 questions that you should ask yourself when you're thinking about getting back with an ex. And the first one is, have I dated enough other people and gained experience? Because if you haven't, okay, when we have that mindset of scarcity where we really have no other options, we have no other reference experience, then of course you're going to put an ex on a pedestal. They're what you last felt close to, you think all their values that they have are the pinnacle values, and really you don't have anything else to compare it to. And so also combine that with the loneliness, and it's easy to just say, well, I want to get back with my ex, when a lot of times you just don't want to be alone, or it's what's comfortable and familiar. So I would ask you, have you actually dated other people and gotten other experiences, seen other values, seen other dynamics that you can have, recognize that maybe you're missing qualities from your past relationship that you didn't even notice that other women are providing or other men are providing? Because until you do, you're just going to think that your ex was the absolute best person for you. And that's just not true. I dated somebody in the past. I thought they were amazing. They had all these wonderful qualities. Unfortunately, some incompatible qualities, but I thought that's all I wanted. And then as you start to date around more, you realize, cool, yeah, they have a sense of humor like this or an intellect like this, and I really like that. But also they were missing some other qualities like their adventurous side or their more open-mindedness to my views that I'm seeing in other people. And I think dating around a little bit provides that clarity. And number 2 is, if you have dated other people, have you given them a fair shot, right? Because it's so easy that when we're dating other people and we're still thinking about our ex, we're just constantly comparing them. And so we're not really opening our heart to them. We're kind of keeping those new people at arm's length. We're not really sharing who we are so that we can see that feedback of them appreciating us for who we are and investing in us, and vice versa. We don't really dig into them and see all the cool, interesting sides of them that would make us get really excited or even fall for them. We think, okay, I'm dating this new person. They're not as good as my ex, but sometimes it's because we haven't even given them a chance to see what that could be like, to see the better person that's inside them. And instead we just keep it surface level, and that's not where we'll ever feel close to somebody. We know that vulnerability is where connection is formed. When two people are opening up and sharing themselves openly, that's where they start to feel closer and actually feel like they have something special. But again, if you're just keeping them at arm's length, you're never going to feel that depth of connection, and you're going to think it's because you're incompatible when really you're just not giving it a fair chance. And number 3 is, was your relationship with your ex even healthy? Both ways. Were you guys respectful of each other? Did you care for each other openly? Were you not aloof? Was this person not just randomly distant to you? Did they not emotionally abuse you? Did they not cheat on you or make you jealous? Or just were poor communicators or overly critical? Whatever it is, sometimes when we get out of an old relationship, just like honestly sometimes when people pass away that might not have been great people, we like to just gloss over all their faults and look at what the best was and what made us feel great about them. But that's not an accurate picture. So when you're thinking about getting back with your ex, you have to think, was it really healthy? Were we growing together? Were we respecting each other? Did we have compatible values? Did we want a future together that could be stable? And if the answer is no, then you have to be honest with yourself and say, is that gonna change? If the answer was yes, and you guys were great together, but maybe had some rare circumstance where one of you was going to move to a different part of the country and you weren't going to stay around, but now you've realized that you'd be willing to risk, flying out to see them or moving somewhere else, sure. But most of the time, they're an ex for a reason. And so if it wasn't healthy, then that leads me to my 4th question, which is, what has changed about the circumstances? Have you changed? Have you worked on a lot of the problems that you felt like were a big issue in the relationship? Have you gone to therapy? Have you processed things? And vice versa, have they? Do you know if they've done the hard work themselves? Have they ever come back and apologized? And not just like fake apologized, but really told you how they understood they were doing things incorrectly, how they were unfair to you? Have you seen, based on their life online or through friends, that they're seeing a therapist and they've gotten a lot better and they're taking anxiety medication? Have they changed, and have you changed a lot of the behaviors and maybe toxic patterns that led to you breaking up in the first place? If the answer is no, then what's going to be different? Nothing. You just want to be back with them, but you're still in the same exact position. You guys have to grow for a relationship to grow. And it can't just be like, oh, we'll grow together, we'll figure it out. People have to want to change on their own. They have to want to change independently and really believe in that. Otherwise, they're just going to temporarily do it to appease somebody, or they're gonna do it and then resent you in the relationship. You have to want to make those hard moves in your life on your own. And now I understand it might be hard to evaluate that from the outside, okay? But that's what we're gonna talk about at the end of this video, is if you decide to pursue something, then you have to keep an open mind and ask some of these questions and dig to see how things have changed and if they've changed. But before that, let me go to number 5, which is, do you want to be with this person or do you need to be? What I mean by that is, are you happy alone? Have you, since the relationship, started investing in yourself? Are you more self-loving? Are you independent? Have you seen a lot of your friends? Are you investing in your own hobbies, your own personal health, and really feeling satisfied of where you are in your life, even without a partner? Or are you looking for somebody to make you happy? Are you feeling alone? Do you feel like this relationship will save you and that, you can't be happy without that ex? If that's the case, that's where you need to be with them and you don't want to be with them just out of two people coming together that are independent and happy. And that's where codependent relationships start. That's where you expect somebody else to fulfill you. And we know that's just not possible. We know that's not only not possible, but not healthy. I think a lot of people, when they get out of a relationship, they just immediately start going to rebounds, or they just don't even process those feelings and they don't work on themselves. And then they're just trying to get to the next relationship to make them happy. And I think before you decide on even pursuing an ex, or sometimes even really before you start pursuing another relationship altogether, you should take the time to feel good about you, to feel more self-loving, to get your friendships in line, to start designing your life and your future, and to feel satisfied with who you are and where you're at in life. Then you can give yourself honestly to a relationship and have a relationship that has a connection together, but two people also mutually independent, so that you have a nice, healthy foundation and you're not just expecting the relationship to provide you everything. And so if you've asked yourself those 5 questions and you feel like the answer is yes, I've dated other people, I felt like I've grown, I'm happy with myself and my life, then maybe you can pursue exploring it with your ex. But I'm going to use that word exploring. I think before you rush into, oh my God, I got to get them back and I got to make sure this happens, you just got to kind of start over and say, reach out to them, see if they want to talk and engage. If they do, awesome. Then you guys maybe set up a couple of dates and you just take those dates casually. You catch up, you see how they're doing, you try to judge your communication patterns, see if they're treating you better, and maybe even as you guys catch up a little bit over those initial times, you start to ask the hard questions of hey, listen, I still want to keep seeing you, but I got to be honest, there's a lot of things that obviously we had to work through, and I want to make sure are okay before we take this further. And you can also lead and be open and say, I've really worked on my own sense of self-worth. I've been, finally picking up the hobby I wanted to. I'm taking classes again and so forth. And you being vulnerable about that will help encourage them to open back up and be like, oh my God, that's great. I've done a lot of thinking myself and here's what I've changed X, Y, and Z. And that'll hopefully give you a little bit more clarity of where they're at. And you can still ask the hard questions too, where you're like, hey, I know you were trying to think about seeing somebody for a lot of the stuff you're working through from your past. How's that been going? And then listen honestly. If they're open about it and they're telling you they're making those moves, and they are, great, that's a point in the right direction. If they're defensive and they're like, why are you asking me about this? And I don't want to talk about this. I'll do it whenever I want. Then that's a clear sign that they're still being avoidant. They haven't worked on those things. They don't have the vulnerability or the commitment to follow through and start to grow, at least at this point, and it's probably not going to work. So if you're getting those positives, continue seeing them. But I would say just be cautious in those first, few weeks, few months, if you guys did explore a relationship together, that those things aren't coming back up readily, because it's easy for somebody to talk and say, yeah, I'm changing and I'm making all these things and I want to, but they have to act that way. They have to really follow through. And so if you see them following through and they're going for help and they catch themselves when they have a temper and they apologize and you see growth, then maybe you can keep continuing to explore that as long as it's going in the right direction. If not, if you see that they're slipping up all the time, they're back to their old ways, they start getting defensive and justifying their actions, they aren't really making any changes and getting help, then maybe it's time to move on. And I know that's tough. I know sometimes we have a history and we don't want to walk away from that. But it's better to find somebody that you can actually have a long-term healthy relationship with if you're looking for, than to just have the comfort of knowing somebody, or maybe because you guys get along and you have a lot of other good qualities, you can't just take the good with the bad. It has to be an overall pretty healthy relationship that is moving forward and supportive and respectful of one another. I hope this video gave you some clarity on whether or not you should pursue an ex or pursue moving on. And if it did, hit the subscribe button, click the notification bell, and give us a thumbs up, and we'll be in touch soon.